And Jiva Cordia, welcome to another Fireside Chat. And this is Fireside Chat 184, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. And as is customary, I start with a prayer for peace. Gomara Shiacon ar fud na crinne, Gomara Shiacon in our Jaili, agus in our Jirha. Gnairi Lin Lenachid Garmaka, Gamwich Buikas Jeev, Je Chivdika is Spirit Quivdika. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deity, for peace. As the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into ploughshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the holy mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So you're all very, very welcome, and let me see where people are from. Hello from Penzance, West Cornwall, Bavaria, Western Washington, cloudy, Pacific Northwest. Well, it's cold, dull, cloudy here. Alexandra, Carla, you're going to meet me tomorrow. Carla Rigetti. Lovely, Carla, Alessandra and Lisa. Wonderful. Dartmoor, hello from Ulster. New Zealand, Hertfordshire, Gisborne, that's New Zealand as well. High River, Alberta, Ontario. Lovely autumn day in Wyoming with a plethora of colours. Beautiful. It's just so lovely to see you all and to be back here again. And Oklahoma. So wonderful to see you all. So we are going to Scotland today. And I'd like to introduce my guest. This is Judith Langsland Scott. Judith, you're so, so welcome.
Lovely to chat to you.
So let's say, where are you from? I mean, where are you actually? Where are you speaking from?
Oh, I'm speaking from the buzzing metropolis that is Forfar, which is in Angus, and that's northeast lowland Scotland.
Uh-huh. And so what's that like? What's the landscape like?
Well, I take it for granted, but having a think about this last night, the landscape around here is magical and steeped in myth and legend. And I grew up in Aberdeenshire, which is also, where I grew up in Aberdeenshire, there were 70 stone circles in my local area.
70?
70, yes. So, but where I am just now, there's just probably the greatest collection of Pictish stones you can find. This sites of all sorts of battles, and it's just a beautiful place. It's an absolutely beautiful place, and it's very mystical and mysterious.
Do you have a special, a kind of a special place to go to?
Yes, for me, it's Aberlermno, which is a village about 5 miles away. And another place, so Aberlermno has famous Pictish stones. And when I was doing my family tree, lots of my ancestors come from there. I didn't know that until I was doing my family tree. And then 5 miles to the west is a small village called Glams. And there's a place called St. Fergus Well there, which was obviously Christianized, but was obviously an ancient Pictish site. And it's absolutely beautiful. If I can't get down there so easily now, but in the good old days. So yeah, there's lots of lovely green spaces here.
So when you talk about those Pictish stones, are you talking about stones where there's carvings, Pictish carvings on them?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow, fascinating.
And souterrains, there's subterranean houses that I used to play in when I was a kid. My dad would take me up there, and caterans, which are ancient hill forts.
Oh, you call them caterans. Interesting
Caterans.
that you're playing in souterrains. There's a souterrain, I'll say about so many kilometers away from where I am. And 2 years ago, we were walking up to see up onto a sacred site where there was a cairn. And the historian who was guiding us said that over there, a little bit, there was a souterrain that was known as the cave locally, where a woman had lived there until well into the 1940s.
Wow.
That was her
Amazing.
house, a
Yeah.
souterrain.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. There's
it's
been
incredible.
similar stories in caves around here where people have lived in, until, the 19th century, I would imagine, So, but Presbyterianism did a lot. I remember you, when we were at Nodva, talking about creation myths, and think about the creation myths of your own place, where you come from. And I thought, well, Scotland doesn't really have any. And then I thought, of course we do. But they've all just they've been lost because of Calvinism. But they're coming back now. There's a lot of people writing about Scottish myths and legends. And, so there's a resurgence.
That is brilliant. Jess has a question. Is Ohm found where you are? Any Ohm stones up where you are?
Yes, but I think they are more further north, like Rosemarkie and I can't remember the famous hill fort that's being excavated. Top of the North. I think they've found things there. Don't quote me on it, but they have found them. But I think we were more just the Pictish symbols, and I think the Ogham is more in the west. Places that you'll find like that begin with a kill, which is an old church. They found famously on Time Team. They were very excited when they found the best piece of Ogham ever, and so that's more in the west coast.
Yeah, and of course, Ogham on the stones, well, probably pre-Christian, but it's just interesting. And the Picts were in Ireland also, but they didn't. There's no evidence of their carvings like you have in Scotland.
I know, isn't that amazing? And so they obviously came from Ireland to Scotland, and then were pushed to the northeast mainly. They've done some amazing work in Fortingall. I don't know if you've heard of Fortingall.
I've seen the Fortingall Yew.
Have you been? Now that's an angry yew. Do you not think that's an angry yew?
Well, yews are arrogant anyway of their nature.
Yeah.
There's a story I read, the story of yew, Y-E-W, and it's a story of the yew tree told from the perspective of the yew tree. She starts as a little sapling, seeing her mother over there. She's very, very arrogant, and was written by, I can't remember his name. I've tried to order it for people, friends, because it's a brilliant book. Somebody, either a Spanish count who lives in Argentina, or there's an Italian connection. And it's just a fascinating story. But the character of the yew tree in that book is really arrogant. And when because we were on a no-bud retreat the year before last, and we went up to the Fortingall Yew, and some people were saying, "Oh, because there's a fence around it."
Yeah.
And it's not fair that the tree is trapped. I said, "You cannot trap a tree.
Yeah.
A tree has a fence around it to protect it, because people, cutting bits off it, or also they used to build fires in it because you can go through it."
Yeah.
And you could see they had little posts to represent its original girth. But that tree is, what did they say? It's the oldest surviving being in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't say it's the oldest tree. It's the oldest. That's it, Papo Guido Mino Il Sospiro. That's right. Is the writer of who wrote the author of the story of you. If you can get access to it, it's brilliant.
I'll try it. Yeah, but
and it says he was inspired by the yew tree in Muckross Abbey in Killarney National Park. And I've been to that tree. When I was there, they were doing up it's in the middle of a cloister. and you couldn't go near the tree because at the time they were restoring the abbey. And I remember looking at, oh, that poor tree, you know, because when you see the railing around it, and then we walked away, and I looked back, and how stupid I was. Look back, and there you could see the abbey with this ginormous, magnificent canopy out over the abbey, and the tree
Yeah.
said, "What are you talking about? I will prevail." You know, I'm not in a prison.
It's not contained.
It's not contained.
Yeah, well, I get the impression that ewe likes being in the railings because it's fed up with people climbing on it and touching it and taking bits off of it. And I think it's quite right to be pissed off you. But Fortingall is fascinating because they think they have now found the site of a massive Pictish cathedral, for want of a better word.
Oh, really?
And Fortingall is also closest to where they take out the Cailleach and the Cailleach and her family, and they don't know who takes it out. You know, the stones. Have you seen
Yes.
that? So they take someone takes them out every year. So they're out at I think it must be Beltane, and these stones, they represent the Cailleach, and it must be her husband. And then every year, I think Halloween, don't quote me, it might be earlier, but I think it's Halloween, and they go back in a sort of wooden cabinet and outside on the mountain.
Okay, rewind. So who would take care of these stones, and who is it that's putting them out on the mountain? And
nobody knows.
Oh, you mean
nobody knows?
They appear and then they disappear and they come back again?
Yeah, they're taken out by probably the same family for generation after generation, and then they're put back when the winter comes.
Because actually, the winter is her time, which is really interesting. Because, you know, Samhain is her time. Interesting that she comes out at Bealtaine.
Yeah.
Now, when we were at the Fortingall Ewe,
I maybe have that the other way around, but it's something like that.
Okay.
Google
but also
it.
we saw a sign that there were druid stones in a field, and I didn't get to see them.
Yeah.
I thought, what does that mean?
Well, that area is fascinating. So I was born in Dundee and spent my early life in Dundee, but every weekend and the Easter, summer, and October holidays, I spent in Kinlochranach with my gran. So you have Fortingall and Glenlyon, and then over Glenlyon you have Kinlochranach. And so I grew up around all these sites that were had Druid in the name.
Okay.
And I meant to look out this book. There's a book, a history of Kinlochranach, just a slim book written by one of the teachers at the big private school that had been there for years. And he explains all the places and their Druid names and what the history would have been, and how the monks came from Iona and Christianized everyone. But, you know, as a little person, I had free reign up there, and I'm going about all these places. And
wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah. It was fun.
Now, so we were staying in Dungartle, and we went on a day trip up to Fortingall. Interesting that all of that stuff is going on there. Brilliant.
Did you visit the field with the huge plague pit in Fortingall?
No.
Oh,
there's some people here who are on the chat who were there. If they remind me, my head goes, there's so much I'm doing that I forget. I don't know, we didn't. Or did we hear about it?
You you go past it just as you go into the village. And it's on the left-hand side, depending which direction you go in, and talk about a spooky place. So
what was the plague?
It was the plague, and lots of the villagers and the people in the glen died. And the story is that there was an old woman who was left to bury them all in this mass pit. So now I don't know if that's just legend, but it's a spooky place.
Wow. Wow. Now you've got a tartan on you.
I do.
What is the tartan?
This tartan is wonderful. So this is the Witches of Scotland tartan. So Witches of Scotland, they're two wonderful women who are not witches. One is a KC and the other one is a writer and a teacher. So Claire Mitchell and Zoe Venditozzi, and they're lovely friends of mine. And so they started this campaign because Claire is a KC who deals with miscarriages of justice.
That's, for those who don't know, that's a King's Council.
King's Council, yes.
It used to be QC. So, I had to think a little bit. Oh, yeah, it's King now.
Yeah, that's right. It sounds weird calling her a KC because she's always been a QC. But so she was thinking one day in the Advocates Library how, wait a minute, she'd read and heard about the witch trials in Scotland that were a huge event. Scotland killed more witches per head of capita than anywhere else in Europe, bar Germany. And Scotland's population was tiny when this all happened in the 16th and 17th century. So she set about looking at the crime that they were accused of, and the legal crime that they were accused of in the Scottish Witchcraft Act of 1563. They couldn't possibly have committed these crimes. So first of all, if you were really a witch and you had all these supernatural powers and you could call on the devil as your good buddy, you would never have got put to trial. You would have escaped, So, and secondly, we all know that you couldn't just get on someone's cow and sprinkle some oats on it and fly all the way from one village to another. You couldn't do things like that. So the crime that they were accused of is impossible. So therefore, they couldn't have committed it. Therefore, all these people are innocent. So they set about this campaign to have this looked into and to have this miscarriage of justice recognised and to gain an apology from the Scottish Parliament and a legal pardon and a memorial. So they got as far as the apology. They got an official apology in Parliament from Nicola Sturgeon, our First Minister. And there's still the pardon is still going through the parliamentary process, but the idea of a memorial became very complicated because where do you put it? How much is it going to cost? All these things. So they came up with this amazing idea of creating a tartan.
Brilliant. I love it.
Which has become, people all over the world can buy and wear this tartan. The grey represents the smoke. The pink represents the legal ribbons that were tied around the documents. The black's for mourning. And then they've just published this amazing book, How to Kill a Witch.
Oh, I must put that in. I'm going to just put that. So, How to Kill a Witch.
And it's been a bestseller. I think you can get it on usual. Who's
it by?
It's by Claire Mitchell and Zoe Venditozzi.
Is that a Claire with an I or a no I?
Yes, Claire with an I.
Claire Mitchell.
And Zoe Venditozzi. Do you want me to spell it?
Yeah, Ven.
VEN.
Yeah, TI.
DITOZZI.
Venditozzi. That sounds okay.
It's Italian, yeah. And when you take off the dust cover, it has the tartan on it as well.
I love it. It's a very nice tartan.
Yeah, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So this was actually created by. It sounds like I'm giving plugs, but I'm really not. It's just it's an interesting story. So it's a small company in Inverness in Scotland called Prickly Thistle, and yeah, they make all manner of wonderful things out of this tartan. It's the only place you can get it from. But if you go on Witches of Scotland, any of their social media, you can find a link to their.
It's lovely. I would love to do it. And we have an OBOD, or not an OBOD, a
BOD,
yes. Not OBOD. So it's just wonderful. Witches of Scotland. Okay.
Yep. So they've been amazing. I was working away doing my own research and campaigning locally, and then got involved with them. And they have a wonderful podcast as well called Witches of Scotland podcast with lots of authorities from all over the world, historians, artists, and just various people. And so, yes, so there's lots of us now. There's lots of individual memorials appearing in towns and villages all over Scotland, and to memorialise these mainly women that were executed.
And the apology that's been given, is that a general apology, or have they named each woman? And
well,
has there been a direct apology?
Yeah, it's a general apology to everyone who was executed or accused. The reason we can't name every single one of them is so many of the documents are missing. So now, whether by accident or design, lots of the church legal records are missing where these trials would have started. But if you go to the accounts, because penny pinching Presbyterians, if you go to the accounts, in Forfar's case, you can find all the itemized, how many candles they were using to keep them awake, how much they were getting to eat, how long they'd been kept for, how long the length of rope was that was used to strangle them. It's incredible. And so I'm writing a book about that. I've been researching it for years, but I keep finding more stuff. So I need to stop now and just get it done. But yes.
So, of your research, what stands out for you?
Well, throughout my, I'd say, good 10 years of researching this, I've had to change the way I think a lot. So I'll go in with preconceptions, and I will constantly, it's almost like be taught a lesson. I'll have a preconception, and it's as if somebody gives me a piece of information, falls into my lap, as if to say, you see, now it's not as simple as all that. So there were lots of reasons for women, mainly women, being accused. And I recently, it was doing family history research again. It was a total coincidence, although some would say there's no such thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was researching, so I've always been obsessed with this place called Couros on the Firth of Forth in Fife. It's the most intact 15th, 16th century village in Scotland. It's stunningly beautiful. And I'd always been obsessed with that place since I was young. My dad used to take me, and anyway, found out through family history research that my family were involved in the witch trials there. One of the women, Kathleen Sands, who's a direct great-grandmother of mine, was executed for the crime of witchcraft.
Wow.
But when I had read the accounts in Forfar, I had always thought to myself, what are the people thinking? Like, the blacksmith has to make these big metal pins for torturing the women, and that's itemized in the accounts. And someone else, the carpenter, has to make stocks for punishing them, not to be outside and have things thrown at them, to actually be in the prison and to be held in that position for hours. What was he thinking? He got money for that. How could he get his head around this? Well, first of all, it's because they believed they were absolutely in league with the devil, and they were to some extent no longer human. But I'd realized that it wasn't as simple as that when I did the family history research, because my however many times great-grandfather was forced under pain of imprisonment to make, they're called branks. They're sort of metal encasements that you would put on an accused person's face, scold's bridles.
Yeah.
Deeply unpleasant. They have a spike in the mouth and horrible things. And it's incidentally apparently where the phrase "hud your tongue" comes from, because these things would
phrase
"hud your tongue." So it's a Scottish hold your tongue.
Hold your tongue. Wow.
Yeah. So it's because when this thing is a scold's bridle that was put on people to tell them, to make them stop talking.
It was that metal rod to depress the tongue.
Yeah. So I found out that he was made to make that under pain of imprisonment. and then it was later used on his granddaughter.
Oh, Jesus.
So it wasn't as simple as, you know, these people just receiving money in every case. And yeah, I found out lots of very surprising things.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
Imagine the implement of torture your grandfather made it.
yeah, yeah. I think he's something like my 7 times great. He might be more than that. Sometimes great grandfather, I think he is. And yeah, to think that it was used later on a member of his own family, it is
So, I
horrible.
mean, how long did this go on for? Did this go on for a few hundred years, or I suppose 3 generations would be? How long did it go on for?
Well, the
The
Witchcraft Act was enacted in Scotland. Actually, Henry VIII did it first in England. I think he was 1562 in England, I think. It's 1563 in Scotland. And experts think it was written by John Knox. So that was 1563 until around about 1736, the Witchcraft Act was repealed. And
So that's almost 200 years.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh my God! Wow, wow.
And they
And this,
know that we know that at least 4,000 women were executed in Scotland in that time. We know that actually many more were, because some of the actual trial documents just say, and sundry witches. So a commission to execute people basically gave you carte blanche. If you found any more, you could just throw them in, you know. So yeah. So don't get me started talking about that, because
oh,
I'm
I
just
do, and
excited.
absolutely, it's great to see your animation and your excitement because Jules says, "I think this book could provide generational healing for so many. Bless you in your endeavors, Judith." Um, and
Well,
Pat
do
says,
you know?
"Go
Sorry,
on."
carry on. Yeah, we did it. I did an interesting thing in Forfar. So I found it was actually somebody who became a sort of research assistant of mine, Sean Wilson, a friend of my daughter's, who was doing his MA in it and needed help or advice with his thesis. So we became great friends instantly, and so him and I did a lot of work. We worked within the community in schools, and did lots of talks in our local museum for free because we wanted to keep the museum open and all these things. And Sean and I have to work that in around our ill health, but it took us a year in total. And we held a memorial service in the local church, which
Wow,
sits on the footprint of the church that these women were held in.
wow,
And the women were Christians, so they were denied a Christian burial and a funeral. So our two local ministers, who were women, they were like, come on, no, we'll do it. We'll do it in the church. So the names of all the people involved and accused were read out. I think 10 people took 5 to 7 names each. And when that happened, that was very spooky. And then the bell went off in the church. Now, the bell that went off is the actual bell that would have been the last sound these women ever heard. So something amazing happened during that service. You know, people all came up and people were crying and all this, and then we got the memorial. Two local, we had no problem getting money for the memorial. Two local businessmen just immediately said, no, here, have the money. But we educated the whole community first and got them all on side.
that bell, did someone actually ring it, or was it rung?
It rings at the same time. It rings at the same times every night, you know. So, in fact, I've got the window open. We'll probably hear it at some point. And it's called Lang Strang. And it was gifted to Forfar in 1656 or 1659. So that the women would have heard that. That was, some of them were tortured in the church and between sermons. So the minister and the elders would torture these women, and they were tortured. And then they'd maybe, because on a Sunday they might have 2 to 3 sermons. So then the minister would just go back and do his work. And
You know, I'm the mind boggles how you can go from being so saintly and, you know, so-called spiritual at a service, and then just go off and do this, and then
Yeah.
just come back.
And that's why, you know, people think, oh, it's history, why bother talking about it? But it's so pertinent to what's going on today.
Oh,
Because,
absolutely.
yeah, these women were othered. I mean, there was 87% women, 14% men. We don't write them off, but men were more likely to escape if they were in prison. A door would mysteriously be left open for them and things like that. It didn't happen with the women. So the reason that they could torture their neighbours that they lived cheek by jowl with every day was because they othered them.
Yeah.
And that's what we still do today with, you know, people who are maybe disabled, mentally ill, drug and alcohol problems, poor, beggars. That's what these people were, and they were killed for it. And so it's a real lesson to us today that our psychology hasn't changed, only our laws. So our laws prevent us from othering people now, and you know, protect them from mob rule. So, but we have to not take those laws for granted.
No, you can see what's happening in Palestine, for example. You know,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Palestinians are being othered, and all sorts of horrendous things being perpetrated. And then
yeah,
that's not just that. You'll see it in Sudan. You'll see it in women in Afghanistan. You'll see it in Congo.
yeah.
Othering and reducing other people to whatever other, be they're animals or
Absolutely.
they're uncivilized or whatever, and that just gives people carte blanche, and then they can use religion in the name of it if they wish
And
to do.
in places like America, so you know, you know that I'm autistic, and I campaign for the National Autistic Society. In America, at the moment, online Christian evangelists will hold a ceremony where they are exorcising the demon from this child in front of maybe a congregation of 4,000 or 5,000 people. And this is an autistic child. And that's them casting the demon out of them that causes the autism. In Africa, there's a chap called Leo Igwe who works with the Witches of Scotland who Witches of Scotland support, because Scotland has kind of become this shining light to show that these people don't really have supernatural powers, and there's maybe just something a bit different about them. And if our legislators and first ministers in Parliament recognize that these people were just targeted because they were different, then people like Leo Igwe, who works in Africa and he rescues lots of people from persecution and is fighting with African governments, he's able to say, look, it's been recognized in other parts of the world. It's not real. Stop it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's incredible. And you know what's really interesting is the universality of this, that, you know, I can't, the phrase has gone from my head, but when things spread,
Contagion.
Well, I'm trying to think of a nicer word, but you know that what's happened in Scotland and the work that's done, and how that can be applied elsewhere, and use it as a model and recognize it. Actually, this is a thing that can be remedied.
And it's just amazing because all sorts of writers. One of my favorite people in the universe, Professor Julian Goodyear, emeritus Professor Julian Goodyear. He's written some of the most amazing books about the Scottish witch trials, and you know, television programs, radio programs, podcasts, and everything. And it's a huge thing in Scotland, and there's a whole group of us now who have come together under sort of Witches of Scotland. And like I say, I'm going to another dedication and memorial stone unveiling in Abernethy on Saturday. They just happen everywhere.
Wow, well done. It's just great to see this is happening.
Yeah,
brilliant. There's Pat, I don't know if you can do this. Pat wants to know, do you know the story of Lilias Adey, The woman who
Yes, I
stole
do.
it.
Now,
Can you tell me?
Lily,
I don't know the
I,
story. But
I can. So, Lilius Addy, interestingly, so when I found about my relatives in Kouros, they were involved in the witch trials in Kouros. So they were, one of Catherine Sands was executed. Then the family moved just along the coast, I think it's about 2.5 miles, to Torryburn. And they would have been in the same congregation as Lilius Addy.
okay.
So now Lilius Addy was this old woman. She was around about 70 something, but she was very tall. So we know this because her skeleton was kept, and I'll come on to that in a minute. But she was about 6 foot. She had done facial reconstructions online that you can find of her. So she had teeth pointing the wrong way, and she had a limp, and she was disabled. And I think her to some, maybe she would have had a frightening appearance. Or she might have been, as a lot of us say nowadays, and it's a bit of an iconic label now, she might have been a quarrelsome dame. So a lot of these women were just, around about our age, Eimear, who were just not taking any shit anymore.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so this Lilius fell into that category, and she was tortured. She was held prisoner for about 4 weeks in the church, and she was tortured. The kind of torture they used was sleep deprivation, and only
That'll make
giving them the bare minimum of food, keeping them in the cold and the damp and awake, and she eventually died before she could be tried. So the village was so scared of Lilius Addy that she has become the only revenant witch burial in Scotland. And what they did was they dug a big pit into the clay on the Forth, the River Forth. And the clay on the River Forth is grey and thick and disgusting. But they set out this huge engineering project to dig out a space to put in a massive pine wooden coffin with her body in it, and then lay a huge, I think it's some kind of granite, it's come from somewhere else, I think it's granite, this huge slab on the top, and you can still see it to this day. It's just beyond the shoreline. And this would have cost lots of money and been a huge engineering project, but they did that. They put Lilius in there.
So, sorry, the grave itself was, I suppose, solid clay, stuck, and then they put the coffin in and then covered it with the granite.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can still go to visit it to this day. But at some point, I think in the 19th century, when they were studying things like, is it phrenology? Is that the
Phrenology, yeah.
They were studying all sorts of things. Some antiquarian and group of people dug up Lilius Addy, and they made walking sticks out of her coffin, and her bones went missing, her skull went missing, and so but I think most of her is still in the coffin, but they took her head. But there's a fabulous historian called Dr. Louise Yeoman, and she knows all about this. So if you actually, she probably mentions it on one of the Witches of Scotland podcasts.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's Lilius Addy, but she was a revenant burial, but she wasn't actually.
So when you
convicted.
describe to our viewers, what is a revenant burial?
It's something that's done in order to make sure that Lilius Addy on the Day of Judgment can't rise from the dead and come back to life. So that's why they burned them in Scotland after they strangled them. So it was judicial strangling. It was hanging by another name. And then they burnt their ashes so that they couldn't rise again on the Day of Judgment.
Well, think of all the cremated people now, cremated Christians rise again. It's really interesting. I I wasn't aware that the so Pat says, "Oh, better bury me that way, so I won't haunt anyone." Um, it's really interesting that notion because now Christians do get cremated. That
That's right.
If that that you needed your body intact to
That's
be
right.
able to
Yeah.
rise on the last day. Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
interesting.
And I've got
Wow.
a tattoo. You've seen my tattoo. I don't know if you can see her. There
Yes.
she is.
So who's she?
She is the village that I'm in, Forfar, the town, small town. Um, one of our accused, called Gazelle Simpson, she was the first of our accused that we know of, that we have records of. And she was executed and buried. So she was buried in the playfield in Forfar. And so that's the only known convicted woman convicted for witchcraft, of witchcraft, that has been buried in Scotland. So on the last book of research, I've been hunting for years to find out where exactly, but I always knew it in my bones. I always knew where she was. I would walk past the site and think she's in there. And the last book that I had to research in a pile of 5 books, it was published in 1819, and in that book it tells me exactly where she was and how they found her.
Wow. This is incredible. And just talking about that revenant burial. Brian mentions Overtoch. Overtoch was an undead, a Nyav Morava, Jarag Julia, drinker of blood in the
Oh,
6th century in Ireland, who was plaguing his people. And he was killed 3 times by a neighbouring chief, and he kept coming back taking more blood until he went to a druid who told him, "You need to bury him upside down and to put." This is one of my stories I tell at Samhain time. To put hawthorn twigs and ash twigs on top of him, fill it up, and then put a slab, a stone slab that is never to be removed. That he will
ah,
never, he is not dead. He is not alive. He is undead. He's Nyav Marav, which means undead. And he can only be contained. And
yes,
so so then they put the slab on it. Oh, yeah, he had to have a yew sword put through his heart because Cahan, the chief, had killed him 3 times with his ordinary sword. He had to make one out of yew wood, put it through his heart, bury him upside down, and put the ash and the hawthorn twigs and then the stone slab. And over the years, people would try and develop that land, but machinery would break, there'd be accidents, etc.
yeah.
So his friend, who is crazy, mad, reckless, went there. I had told him, because where he is in Slachtavorty in County Derry, which means Slach Overtuck, which means the sepulchre of Overtuck, but it's been
Oh,
anglicised. It's near his Glen Illen, and and uh, he went there, and there's a hawthorn tree,
yep.
obviously from one of the twigs that Cahan put in there in the 6th century, and it's grown. And he said that while he was there, that one of the branches came out, and he was struck with a thorn, and he began to bleed, and it landed on the ground, and it disappeared. So that any time there was an accident, even in the stories, if anyone cut themselves, the blood would disappear very quickly because Overtalk is still down below drinking it.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so what my friend had gathered bits of the thorns and put them in little containers. I have one. I like to do that as a
Wow.
story. Like he's
Wow.
not dead. He's only contained. And I remember taking it out. I was at a storytelling festival in Orkney a few years ago. I was around Samhain time, and I had that in my bag too because it was going to be the story I told. And it fell out of my hand, and I had to run down the street after it. This bloody thing was trying to get away from me. So it's all part.
Wow. A
So,
brilliant story. Now,
so
is that?
and Bram Stoker was Irish. He wrote Dracula.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the theories is that he would have known that story. And Druc Ulla means bad blood. Does that not sound like Dracula?
Ah, yes, of course. Now, I think that story is mentioned in Mark Gatiss's "Who Do You Think You Are?"
Oh,
I Yeah, so there's definitely a story of a sort of vampiric creature, and they could take him to this field in the middle of nowhere with a hawthorn thing, and they say, yeah, that's where your family came from.
Wow.
So if you can see that, it's worth watching. I don't know if it's the same story, but it sounds like it. So
Wow,
yes,
that's just fascinating. So if you, I've just put it in the text, Overthok. If you put that in, you'll find it. But that's our kind of Dracula story because what do you call him? Bram Stoker never went to Transylvania, never went to Romania.
yeah,
So
yeah. He actually has
also,
connections with the northeast of Scotland too. Slains Castle. He used to stay in Cruden Bay at a big hotel there, and
okay,
he would write. So yeah, I know he's connections with Whitby and the cathedral, but if you go to Slains Castle, which is a ruin now and is right on the coast, and there's Cruden Bay just down below with a little tiny harbour, and that's said to inspire some of Dracula as
okay. So
well.
Bram Stoker went there. Now Brian M. I don't know if you're Scots or Irish. You're saying Julia, the evil eye, Druk Julia would be evil eye. But I'm just wondering, is that Gaelic as well? Do you say the evil eye is silent? Uh,
Ah,
yeah. Yes, I wonder. Anyway. Oh yeah, so Pat says, or Pete said he saw that episode with Mark Gatiss. Very interesting.
yes, yes,
And
and
also,
I
Bram
don't
Stoker
want
was
to
very young, and he would have been blooded. He would have had blood taken from him.
really
It's for healing.
for.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, you can actually there's I was on TV with Lucy Worsley.
Uh
It's
huh.
nothing to do with the Dracula, but it's to do with the witches of Scotland. And so she came to my house and we did filming during COVID
Right.
for. So it's Lucy Worsley. It's still on BBC iPlayer, and it's Lucy Worsley investigates witches,
Okay.
and it's fascinating the way she handles it, because she can be in some of her programs she's obviously quite light-hearted and stuff,
I just
but
spell Worsley.
Worsley, I think.
Investigates
Yeah,
witches. Okay. And that's on what channel or?
BBC iPlayer. I think it's, if you just go in maybe history and check for it.
Okay.
Yeah, but she was hugely moved, um and you see near, at the end of the episode, that she is very moved by what she's found out. But yeah,
Wow.
so
That's just. So, how far is your book going? How well is it? Ah,
I'm trying to I'm trying not to edit as I go along,
okay.
and I'm trying to fit it in. I've always got to fit it in because there's always some catastrophe going on in the family. But so it's going. But I was thinking I need to go away for a week and just
That's
stay
what I.
somewhere, because it's all in my head. I've got all my references. I know it all. So it's just a case of thrashing it out. So hopefully this time next year.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah.
I find I can't write at home. I can only write away, even
Yeah,
though I don't.
we were
Yeah.
talking about that. Yeah, and I agree. I think I need to just go somewhere and just throw myself into it for a whole entire week.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah.
So Brian says it's Scottish Gaelic on Irish keys. My father's are backwards. You Scots don't actually, yeah, you can do them backwards as well. I always say the Scots can't spell. They
Oh well,
their father, Sheena's father's funny. I can read Gaelic. I was like, oh yeah, but I wouldn't be able to write it. The drac, yes, Lennox the Sulia, so it's the same rules in Ireland as well. Brian, Druch Julia, brilliant.
yeah.
So now you're a member of the National Autistic Society in Scotland.
That's right. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that because you were talking about earlier, druids and neurodivergence and
Oh yeah. I mean, I went to the Gorsedd at Nodfa, and
yeah,
was scared about going to that because I'm a kind of solitary person, although I know I am friendly. Um,
You
so I was a bit scared of going. And then it turned out at the weekend, we had worked out that probably 97% of everyone that was there was neurodivergent, if not autistic, so it made it much easier, because when you're in a group of people who are mainly autistic or ADHD, you can get on much easier. It's much easier to communicate, and that was found out in a. I was involved in that. I was one of the people studied by Edinburgh University, and they studied the way that autistic people communicate, and they found out the opposite of what they thought they would find out. They thought they would find out that autistic people were, lacked communication skills and were somehow deficient. But what they found out was that it's actually the opposite. Autistic people are extremely effective communicators. They just need another effective communicator to pick up on their cues. So they found out that 93% of the time, an autistic person could immediately spot another autistic person. But with neurotypical people, they can only do it 10% of the time. And they found out that autistic people really only use the words they need to use in order to communicate, whereas neurotypicals will generally add things on, or make a sentence more flowery or add on a, what I mean, so you know what it's like. But autistic people don't do that. Plus, autistic people tend not to use small talk, so they just get right in there, and you have amazing, kind of deep conversations. But also, there are people who are autistic who maybe can't communicate so well verbally, but they will use lots of other cues, and it seems that autistic people can pick up on them much more easier. So I became involved. The National Autistic Society of Scotland asked me to be on their campaign team, and there's some amazing pieces of legislation going through the Scottish Parliament at the moment. One of them I won't bore you with, but it's called the LDAN Bill. People have worked from all sorts of organisations and given their expertise over probably about 5 years, and they've come up with this wonderful bill that would revolutionise education and care, teaching, lots of things. So we generally just have to push to get this through Parliament. So working a lot with SNPs, not SNP, MSPs. That's the dyslexia at the moment. And trying to, sort of working with the press and keeping the pressure on, because there's lots of children falling through the cracks, lots of people falling through the cracks in Scotland. I think it's only, is it 19% of autistic adults are in full-time employment? It's a very low figure.
19.
Yeah, it's a very low figure. Yeah, and obviously there's a very high suicide rate amongst autistic people. And that all needs to change, because we've got a lot to offer society.
I'm really impressed with the differences they found, the assumptions they had made that about poor communication skills or whatever it was, and to have found no. So you're saying that autistic people read the room better?
Yep. And I think it's because we generally, and that can cause us a huge amount of stress, to be in a room with lots of different people. And I'm like a lot of autistic people, will go away and just have a shutdown, 3-4 hours solid. It's not sleep, you're just out. A bomb could go off and you wouldn't hear it. But I know with me, when I walk into a room, I see everything in the room all at once. So I'll be able to say to Wayne, my husband, for example, I'll be able to say, oh, well, have you noticed that thing on the wall over there behind that chair beside the piano? And he's like, what are you talking about? But it means that I I have a really heightened sense of smell, hearing. So you're hearing people's clothes make noises. You can smell lots of different things. You can hear lots of noise as it's difficult to maybe concentrate on one conversation while there's lots of other ones going on, and your brain's dipping in and out. But generally, I know so many people who are very, very effective communicators who are autistic. And I know with my youngest son, who didn't speak until he was 3.5, you know a lot of it is on another level of communication. So yes, it's interesting being autistic.
It's really interesting. I can't small talk. I find it really difficult. I find it very, very stressful. So I'm an introverted extrovert. No, I'm an extroverted introvert. That's the one. Also, my hearing is heightened, so I hear everything and I can't filter it out. So that being in a social situation and hearing everything and not being able to actually focus on the conversation, or if somebody's rattling a sweet paper beside me in a
Yes.
cinema or a lecture, it really stresses me because I can't hear what's there. I'm not able to filter out the extraneous stuff.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you have possibly a neurodivergent person in the family, don't you? So there's a possibility that they got that from somewhere.
You mean like I have a neurodivergent child?
Yeah.
Well,
So where did that come from, Eimear?
I have no idea. What's that?
You see?
No idea. My husband was very socially anxious right until his maybe 50s. And
Yeah.
my son was, but then at 12, at 13, he decided he wasn't going to be sensitive anymore, and he didn't. So he
Yeah.
manages very well. So he was the sensitive one growing up, but because he didn't go to school, it never amplified. We managed it. I managed it easily. We traveled everywhere, took him to Africa, no problem. So it was all about management. And I think when you're trying to put anyone who's odd, who isn't fitting fitting into the box, and when you put them into a school box, that's really, really hard. And that's where everything becomes amplified and magnified. And we were able to bypass all of that because we were able to manage him.
Yeah. Well, the study, I wish I could remember the person who did it. And I interacted with her all the time. Dr. Catherine, but I can't remember her surname. I'm sure people, if they go and look hard enough with the University of Edinburgh, they got money from some organisation as well to help with funding of it all. And this was about maybe about 8 years ago this was carried out. So it's fascinating. And we got to do things like we were given bits of spaghetti and blue tack and told to build certain things. And all the autistic people could just do it like that. You got given a time that was set and just go and build something or other. And
you did?
Yeah. So they were quite amazed by it's almost like autistic people just need neurotypical people to tune in a bit more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Taimi, who's in Finland, says, interesting details I hear and see resemblances in myself, which I never considered before, and I never fit into the box. And then Jules says, my niece and nephew are both autistic and they're delightful to hang out with. We have such interesting conversations. Dr. Catherine Crompton.
That's her. Yes.
That's from Jane in Canada. Okay.
Fantastic. That's her. Brilliant, Jane. Yeah, that's fantastic.
We have attentive viewers who like to who do the research in the background. It's brilliant. I really, really appreciate that.
Oh, that's fantastic, and it was good to be involved with that. But yes, so I'm still campaigning with them. We've got work to do with the National Autistic Society, and well, my children are all autistic, and I'm homeschooling, home ed, the youngest one. Yeah. So,
and how is that going?
Oh, he's so happy. It's ridiculous. All the stress has been removed.
Absolutely, and I think that if you're fortunate to be able to do it, like when my husband died, my daughter was at home for a year after that, and then I just couldn't. She was an eye-rolling teenager, and I didn't have the patience, and he wasn't impressed enough with me to be inspired by me. I sent her to an Irish medium school, and it was the best thing ever happened to her. But she really appreciated her home
Brilliant.
education before that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but and when you're home educating your child, it's 1 or 2 hours a day. It's not
yes,
emulating what happens in school. There's no battles. If they don't want to do something on a day, you say that's fine.
yeah,
And we would leave things for months and be amazed at the jumps they made anyway, in spite of
yeah,
us.
yeah,
And it just made it just for just our life was easier with less drama and less pain trying to get our kids up for school in the morning.
yeah, yeah,
I thought my heart goes out to any parents trying to get lunch boxes, school uniforms, the PE uniform, this, that,
yeah,
and the note, and all the other things that you're trying to do early in the morning. And I'm not
yeah.
a morning person. Let me
Me
just.
neither.
So Pat says, I train people in contact centres and find that autistic people are often great on the phones, but they struggle to lead the call. It's hard to get them to proactively set the tone.
Oh, it's very interesting. Like, don't ever ask me to speak on the phone. So I'm speaking to you on this, but you know what? I
Yeah,
won't
well, I
answer my
can
phone.
you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my friends all know, family know, I won't answer my phone. I'd never have. But if I need to phone for someone else, I can do that. I just can't do it for myself. Yeah, yeah.
I used to, as a child, hate answering the phone because I could never hear it. I could
Ah,
hear, but because of some other buzz, and I thought I was
yeah,
deaf, I was going for hearing tests, and my hearing, when they put the thing in my ear and I'd hear the bells, yeah, yeah, I can hear it all, and they go, there's nothing wrong with your hearing, and I
yeah,
would be anxious because I have to respond, and now I know why I used to think I was really bad, but
yeah,
even still, I'm happy to speak on the phone now, but I have to put AirPods in because I can't hear if there's too much noise. Anything, it's just really, really hard.
yeah.
So it's interesting. We've got loads of neurodivergent. 4 out of my 5 grandchildren are neurodivergent. Philosophical says same terrible small talk, hearing everything at once. For me, it's the ADHD. I assume I don't have a diagnosis, and my husband has ADHD. I'm one of the few things that can let him breathe and find who he is without the mask. That's Tabitha. Wow. And Carolyn says, I'm home educated. I home educated my daughter. She's neurodivergent. We had a wonderful time. Can't recommend it enough. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and she says, how wonderful, Judith. Gifted children deserve the chance to bloom.
Oh,
So a lot of
thank
people, I hate phones with a fiery passion. I don't do phones. This is interesting. I thought I was weird, says Philosophical. Even as a teenager, I hated the phone. Well, you are weird. And
Oh, it's great to be weird. It's just
welcome,
great.
welcome to the world of weird. I just do mine with a smile. Um, Liz says, I'm loving the solidarity. Well, of course, this is why conversations like this are really important. You're not the only odd bod. And oddity is
Yeah,
lovely because it's diverse. It's exciting. And as long as we're not, that's my misophonia, Pat. That's right. I have misophonia. Certain sounds just drive me cuckoo. But
okay.
uh, it's great to have these conversations. You think, um, yeah,
Yeah. I think when I went to the summer gathering, and the the initial sort of meet and greet I was nervous about, and then within, I don't know, less than 2 minutes, everyone just speaks. Everyone's very open and friendly, and um, I never wanted to join anything, to go to gatherings or to wear robes, or I was quite happy being solitary until I went and realized, like, when you do the Awen as a group, it's just the most incredible thing. And then I understood why you would wear a robe and possibly a cloak, because if you're outside, it can be cold and windy, but it's also nice to go into a different
that's
kind
right.
of being, you
It's
know.
sacred time, sacred space by putting something on, whatever that is. Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So now I will seek you out, all you all you druidic people, and will join you when I can.
And I mean, I joined the order 7 years before I went to a gathering because I thought I hate groups. I want to be on my
Yes,
own. So I had
yes.
my own group, but I was terrified the first time I went to the gathering. Now I went with a friend, but it's like, oh my God, there's going to be small talk. And I've nothing to say. It's like I've nothing to say. It's not that I thought people would be looking at me weird, although I did worried about being Irish and my accent, how welcome
Really?
I would. Oh, yeah. Well, because of all the anti-Irish stuff in England at the time. I mean,
Oh,
prior
okay.
to that. And of
Yeah,
course, I need
yeah,
to worry. But I was, it was that. And again, and I would be shy going to the meet and greet, even though
yeah,
I'm the chief. I still find it
yeah.
difficult.
Well, difficult, I would imagine, for you because all eyes are on you as well. I
That's not
can
the
be
problem. It's what am I
no.
going to say? No,
Oh, really?
if I'm giving out tea, I'm fine. Once I have a job, but I'm also that always that first thing that can be hard. So yeah,
Yeah.
even though
Well,
people don't believe me, I'm really shy.
but that's what's interesting is the fact that I can talk about the things that I do or the things that I'm interested in. I can't talk about myself. It's difficult to talk about
Yeah.
myself. So,
Oh
but
well,
I need to say that
I appreciate that
I
conversation.
blame Ronald Hutton for all of this, by the way, because when I read his Blood and Mistletoe, and he
Yeah,
talks in there about Obod and Philip Cargom, and that's what made me get in touch with Obod. So,
brilliant, brilliant.
yeah.
I just want to honour. Sandy says a class study revealed recently how autistic children can communicate telepathically with each other. Most of my
Yes.
grandchildren are autistic in various forms, and a lot of questions about my children's diverse personalities and also my own strange little ways are slowly being answered. And it's really interesting about those because I'm discovering things about. That's what that is. That's what this is. I don't need to go and have a test or anything, but it's like, it's now making sense of. If
Yeah.
I get stressed about noise, it's not because I'm a contrary bitch. It's actually
Yeah.
there's a reason for this. Okay, and now I'm more compassionate, and then it's not so bad.
Yeah. 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 It's good when you can understand yourself and understand why you are the way you are and
Exactly.
just not give a monkeys anymore. Just not care. This is me, everyone.
That's right. Well, you know what? Yes, because what was your attitude?
Well, my attitude is I just don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, because I
I
have written
take
down when I was doing my little, I was like, if I could do it anyway. And I think
yes,
that's what
that's
it is.
it. It is. I just believe with every grey hair that comes in, we've not got much time left. There are things to do.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, Ricky says, talk to me about the oak tree, rambles on for 3 hours. Talk to me about yourself for 2 minutes, breaks out in sweat.
Yes,
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah.
entirely agree.
So listen, we have gone over our hour and it has been such a joy. And the next time I'm going to hold you talking about yourself, okay?
Okay.
It's because we could go on and on and on for hours. So Jules says, I needed to hear that today, letting my freak, oh God, it's hard to say this.
That's my
Freak
favorite
flag.
song.
Oh, is that a
Yes,
song?
it's a song. It's Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and it's I almost cut my hair. I think it's called.
Letting my
Anyway,
freak flag fly.
flag
Yes,
fly.
it's so saying that. And that is brilliant. Okay.
That's one of my mottos. Yep,
Oh, brilliant.
brilliant.
Listen, it's been such a joy talking to you. And I'm going to let you say goodbye to everybody.
Okay, I will say goodbye, and it's been a joy talking to you, Eimear, and feeling everybody in the room with
Yeah.
their input. It's been fabulous.
I love the viewers here. They're just brilliant. So it's like, no, this is Nimi. Enjoying this so much. You two are awesome. Oh, thank God, Anton. I'll take you home with me. Thank you so much for your openness and authenticity. Enjoyed so much listening. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful chats. Thanks for the insights, laughs, and F bombs.
I'm
Any
Scottish,
and
it's an
then Ricky
intrinsic.
says,
Sorry.
Le fric, c'est chic. That's brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going
Yes.
across.
No. I mean, I come from the land of Billy Connolly, so the F word is one of the essential parts of Scottish language.
It's a very healing word. Alan says, great conversation, riveting stuff. Thank you both so much. That was brilliant. Thank you. Wonderful.
That's lovely.
It's been a bonding moment for my husband learning other things about just ADHD that I have, and me learning about that AUDHD.
Yeah,
What's that?
yeah, autism and ADHD or ADD. Yeah.
And
Because
us.
they know that lots of people who have maybe only an ADHD diagnosis, they usually are autistic as well.
And this is interesting. She's in us getting to discover the reasons behind our quirks together. And I remember talking to somebody whose husband is autistic, and once that was recognized, then she was able to have more compassion for him, and
Yeah.
he was. But it just made more sense. And this is why you don't have filters, or why you say what you say and behave in such a way that actually, now I get it. And once you
Di-
have, that's really
yeah,
important.
diagnosis can unlock all of that. You know, you can realize why you are the way you are, but also your family members. It can help them understand.
You're not all
Yeah.
bad.
My husband's the only neurotypical person in our family. So we can't
Yes.
understand why he communicates the way he does. What's
How
wrong
does he
with him?
survive you? How does he survive you? Well, of course, he's neurodivergent as well. That means you're in a family of neuro. So is he the neurodivergent, and you're all the same, or you're all different from each other?
He Wayne is as neurotypical as they come,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
normal. And then we are all as, neurodivergent as they come. But he copes with it quite well.
Okay. I don't know what it means to be normal, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, listen, such a joy. I'll say goodnight to you. I'm going to send you back through the veil, but don't go, because we can check over the rest of the comments. So don't go anywhere.
Okay.
You can say goodbye, and I'll just say goodbye to the others here.
Oh,
Great.
just lovely to speak to everyone. Bye.
Brilliant. So thank you all for joining us this evening. And Jules says normal would be boring. Brilliant. So look at have a great evening, afternoon, morning, or if you're watching a recording of this. And I look forward to seeing you next week for another fireside chat. And I know, because the guest is one of the viewers tonight, a very interesting guest whose identity will be revealed all in due time next week. So in the meantime, slán go fóill and be gigama. Okay? Be good to yourselves and good to each other. Slán.